Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1 verse 24. Sanjaya uvacha evam ukto hrishikesho gudakeshena Bharata senayor ubhayor madhye stapayatva rathotamam. Sanjaya said, O descendant of Bharata, thus addressed by Gudakesha, Arjuna, Hrishikesha, Lord Krishna, placed the magnificent chariot in the midst of the two armies. In response to Arjuna's heartfelt request, Lord Krishna, referred to here as Hrishikesha, the Lord of the senses, drives the divine chariot between the two great armies. This moment marks the literal and symbolic positioning of Arjuna between two worlds, one of duty and war, and one of compassion and inner moral conflict. This verse transitions the narrative from preparation to confrontation. Krishna, the divine charioteer, honors Arjuna's request not just physically but also spiritually, guiding him into the heart of the battlefield where the ultimate spiritual awakening is about to begin. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Verse 25. Bhishma Drona Pramukhata Sarvesham Cha Mahikshitam Uvacha Partha Pashyaitan Samavetan Kurun iti. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all the other kings, Lord Krishna said, Behold, O Partha, Arjuna, all the Kurus assembled here. Lord Krishna, standing in the midst of the battlefield with Arjuna, points toward the great warriors gathered, Bhishma, Drona, and others. He gently asks Arjuna to observe the armies assembled before him. This is not just a call to see with the eyes, but to perceive the deeper implications of fighting those whom he reveres and loves. This verse begins to stir Arjuna's emotional and moral conflict. Krishna sets the stage for inner realization, showing Arjuna the stark reality of war, not just as a physical battle, but a battle of duty, dharma, and soul. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Verse 26. Tatra pashyat sthitan partha pitrinatha pitamahan acharyan matulan bratrin putran pautran sakhims tathashva shuran suhridash chaiva senayor ubhayor apither. Arjuna saw, standing on both sides, his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, fathers-in-law, and well-wishers. This verse marks a turning point. As Arjuna looks upon the battlefield, he doesn't just see warriors, he sees his family, friends, and revered elders. The emotional gravity of war starts to hit him. The people in front of him are not faceless enemies, but deeply connected individuals from his own life. The battlefield becomes a place of emotional turmoil. Arjuna's vision shifts from strategy to sentiment. This moment lays the foundation for the profound spiritual crisis and questions that will follow in the next verses, ultimately leading to the teachings of the Gita. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Verse 27. Tan samikshyasa kaunteya sarvan bandhun avastitan kripaya paraya vishto vishidan idam abravit. Seeing all his relatives arrayed on both sides, Arjuna, son of Kunti, was overwhelmed with deep compassion and spoke sorrowfully. As Arjuna looks at the battlefield filled with his own kin, he is overtaken by intense grief and compassion. The idea of fighting his loved ones becomes unbearable. His warrior spirit begins to waver, and emotions start to dominate his mind. This verse captures Arjuna's emotional collapse. The heroic archer begins to be consumed by inner turmoil. His heart, rather than his bow, begins to speak. The Mahabharata war is no longer just about territory. It is now about dharma, love, duty, and inner conflict. All themes that unfold deeply in the Gita. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Verse 28. Arjuna uvacha drishtvemam svajanam Krishna yuyutsum samupastitam siddhanti mamagatrani mukham cha parishushyati. Arjuna said, O Krishna, seeing my own kinsmen eager to fight, my limbs give way, and my mouth becomes dry. In this verse, Arjuna begins to articulate his inner breakdown. The mere sight of his family members prepared for battle is enough to shatter his composure. His body reacts physically, trembling limbs and a dry mouth, symptoms of overwhelming emotional distress. This is the beginning of Arjuna's confession, not of fear, but of moral and emotional conflict. This verse sets the tone for the larger theme of the Gita. The battle within is as intense as the battle outside. Arjuna's vulnerability paves the way for Lord Krishna's divine guidance. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Verse 29. Vepatushcha sharire me roma harshashcha jayate gandivam sramsate hastat tvak chaiva paridahyate. My body trembles, and my hair stands on end. The Gandiva bow slips from my hand, and my skin burns all over. Arjuna continues describing the intense physical manifestations of his inner turmoil. His body shakes uncontrollably, his hair stands up in fear, and his mighty bow, Gandiva, slips from his grasp. He feels a burning sensation across his skin, symbolizing the anguish and dread of fighting his loved ones. This verse captures Arjuna's descent into a deeply emotional and psychological crisis. His warrior identity is dissolving in the face of moral pain. The once steady hands of a great archer now tremble. This vulnerability is what makes the Bhagavad Gita not just a dialogue on war, but a spiritual reflection on duty, self, and the soul. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Verse 30 Nacha Shaknomi Avastatum Brahmativa Chame Mana Nimitani Chapashyami Viparitani Keshava. I am unable to stand steady, and my mind seems to be reeling. O Keshava, I see only adverse omens all around. Arjuna's emotional breakdown continues to deepen. He feels physically weak, mentally disoriented, and spiritually conflicted. He confesses to Krishna that his mind is spinning with confusion, and that he sees only negative signs, omens that seem to warn him against engaging in this battle. Conclusion. This verse reveals the complete unraveling of Arjuna's inner strength. What began as a warrior's determination has now turned into fear, anxiety, and doubt. He stands at the edge of surrender, not to the enemy, but to the overwhelming weight of conscience. This moment sets the perfect stage for Lord Krishna's timeless guidance. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Verse 31, Nacha, Shreyonupashyami hatva svajana mahave. I do not see any good in killing my own kinsman in this battle. Arjuna, overwhelmed by grief and compassion, expresses his deep disillusionment. For him, no victory, kingdom or reward can justify the destruction of his own family and loved ones. His words reflect the moral and emotional dilemma faced by every human in moments of deep conflict. This verse stands as a powerful statement of empathy and the internal conflict between duty and emotion. Arjuna begins to question the very foundation of warfare and righteousness. His cry is not of cowardice, but of a heart caught between dharma and love. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1 Verse 32, Nakankshe Vijayam Krishna Nacha Rajyam Sukhanicha Kimno Rajena Govinda Kim Bhogar Jivitenava. O Krishna, I do not desire victory nor kingdom nor pleasures. O Govinda, of what use is a kingdom, pleasures, or even life itself? Arjuna continues to reveal his emotional turmoil. He questions the very purpose of the battle and the rewards it promises. To him, victory and kingdom are meaningless if gained through the suffering and death of loved ones. Life without them, he says, holds no joy or purpose. This verse touches on the essence of detachment and love. Arjuna isn't rejecting power or pleasure out of ignorance, but from deep emotional clarity. This moment of raw honesty brings the listener closer to Arjuna's heart and prepares the stage for Krishna's divine wisdom to shine. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Verse 33. Yeshamarte kankshitam, no rajyam bhoga sukhanichata imevastita yude pranam styaktva dhananicha. Those, for whose sake we desire kingdom, enjoyments, and pleasures. They are all standing here in battle, ready to give up their lives and riches. Arjuna reflects on the bitter irony of war. The very people he wishes to please or protect with victory, elders, teachers, and family, are ready to die on the battlefield. If they perish, then the kingdom and luxuries won't hold any meaning for him. This verse deepens Arjuna's sense of despair and moral conflict. It highlights the paradox of war, gaining everything by losing what truly matters. His attachment to his loved ones now challenges his warrior duty, prompting the spiritual dialogue that follows. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Verse 34, Acharya Pitara Putras Tathaiva Chapita Mahamatulashvashura, Pautrashyala Sambandhinas Tatha. Teachers, fathers, sons, and also grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives. Arjuna lists the many relatives and respected elders gathered on the battlefield, emphasizing the strong personal bonds that connect him to both sides. These are not strangers or enemies. They are his own flesh and blood. This verse continues to build Arjuna's emotional and moral struggle. The battlefield is not just a place of strategy and power. For Arjuna, it's a place of deep personal loss. He's overwhelmed by the prospect of causing harm to those he reveres and loves. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Verse 35. Etanna hantum ichchami gnatopi Madhusudana api trilokya rajasya heto kim nu mahi krite. O Madhusudana, Krishna, I do not wish to kill them, even if they attack me. Not even for the sovereignty of the three worlds, let alone for this earth. Arjuna expresses a firm refusal to engage in battle, even if offered rule over the entire universe. His inner values and emotional turmoil overpower his sense of duty. For him, the price of victory, gained by killing his own kin, is far too high. This verse highlights Arjuna's deepening detachment from worldly gains and his rising moral conflict. He appeals to Krishna with honesty, revealing his inner resistance to violence, even under extreme provocation or promise of unimaginable reward. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Verse 36. Nihatya dhartarashtranna kapriti syaj janardana papamevashrayed. Asman hatvaitan atataina o janardana. What joy would we derive by killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Only sin will befall us if we slay these aggressors. Arjuna questions the value of a victory won through bloodshed. Even though the Kauravas are aggressors, Atataina, he believes that killing them would result in sin, not joy. This shows his deep concern with righteousness and moral consequence. Arjuna's conflict grows more intense. He weighs dharma, duty, against karma, consequences. His conscience tells him that even justified violence may leave lasting guilt and sorrow. Thus, the inner war before the outer battle takes center stage. Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 1 verse 37. Tasman nadhavayam hantum dhartarashtran sabandhavan svajanam hikatam hatva sukhina syama Madhava. Therefore, O Madhava, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra along with their companions. How can we be happy by killing our own people? Arjuna continues to express his inner turmoil. He appeals to Krishna with a moral argument. Even if the Kauravas are in the wrong, killing one's own relatives and friends cannot bring happiness. His heart is torn between duty as a warrior and love for his family. This verse further reveals Arjuna's emotional and ethical conflict. It shows the gravity of war, not just as a clash of weapons, but as a crisis of the soul. The Bhagavad Gita begins to unfold as a dialogue on life, duty, and the deeper meaning of righteousness.